Dr. Fischler, climate change is something that's so gigantic, challenging the community of the whole Earth. But this happens at the time when actually international cooperation or the belief in multilateralism is kind of deteriorating. So it's very tricky what's going to happen next, right?
Well, I think this is a general observation in modern politics. It's not only related to climate change. The political systems all over the world are more and more reactive and not offensive. And therefore, I think we all have a bigger responsibility here, because the start of any change, and you can see this with the protests every Friday in Europe, and in the meantime also in other countries, with a 16-year-old Swedish girl is able to change things. And what I would like to say here is it depends on all of us, and it depends also that the new ideas, the initiative is coming from the civil society. Top-down doesn't work with these things.
Okay, we have another round. This gentleman in white shirt and this lady with glasses, and you sitting on the stairs. All right, the second round. Dr. Fischler, if you keep your answers short, then we could possibly have a third round. Then we have to finish.
I will do my best.
Yeah. So first one, please. Is the microphone working? Sit down.
Yeah, thank you for your excellent presentation. In your slide 30, you mentioned about reducing agricultural production losses and the waste is one of the 5 potential contribution, right, to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. But that seems that this is a responsibility of the farmers only. But actually, for our ordinary people, I think it's a food supply chain from the production, distributor, retailer, and even the consumers. There's very important to reduce the food waste. So because in the COP24 in Poland, they say IPCC, the food loss and the food waste account for 8 to 10% of the greenhouse gas emission. And recently, I just came back from Chile, from the APEC Food Security Week. In the mysterious statement, they emphasize reducing food loss and waste is an adaptive and a mitigation strategy for the climate change issue. So they think that reducing food loss waste is very important to combat climate change. Yeah, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And this lady, please.
Hello. I studied in Austria 2 years ago, and I saw some very good initiative in Vienna. For example, food co-op, like where every members invested a little bit of money, and we order food directly from the farmers. But I also saw the limit of this kind of local initiative where it only reached very small amount of people. I wonder, like, what potential you see these initiatives can have, and what are the main obstacles?
Thank you. And the third one? I forgot already. Yes, please.
So my question is that we talk about climate changing as a social responsibility of every global citizen. But my question is there any action taken by the EU Commission or maybe Austria government to the developing countries that we have talked about the climate changing, that the most influence and actually had been devastating was to the developing country instead of in Europe, regarding with, for example, this drought or there's a flood in India and in Thailand. So is there any action taken by EU to the developing country? That was my question. Thank you.
Can you take one more from online, because we have live streaming? Okay, I'll just sum it up. There is one theory, one observation, which says that actually the developed countries have developed because they have used up all the resources, and now they are saying that you have to cut down, while the developing countries are just starting to use the resources, which is unfair. Therefore, his or her question is this: do you think the developed countries have the responsibility to provide free tech investment and favorable policy to developing countries?
Okay. Well, 4 questions, 4 answers. And I will be short. So about losses and waste. I think we must here differentiate between the losses and the waste. The losses are primarily taking place within the food chain, for example, mainly in the developing countries, where you have, because of poor harvest or poor storage facilities, major losses. The waste is a phenomenon of the developed countries. We, in the developed countries, we are wasting food. Interestingly enough, the amount altogether is in the developing countries and in the developed countries more or less the same. But this also means that to reduce losses is an issue for the farmers, is an issue for the processors and for the retailers. And to reduce the waste, this is something for the supermarket chains mainly, and also for us, for the consumers. We all can contribute to reduce waste here. Then you spoke about the farmers' markets in Vienna and what role they play. They play a minor role. In Europe, and this is more in the northern countries than in the southern European countries. For example, take the example of Germany or Austria, it's almost the same. In these 2 countries, the whole food market is in the hands of 3 to 4 companies. These are the supermarket chains, and these supermarket chains, they are responsible for the concentration. And what we can do here is, on the one hand, that, for example, in cities or in bigger villages, we offer the opportunity, so the communes offer the opportunity for farmers' markets. And what also can be done, and this is happening now more and more also in some of the supermarket chains, that they open a shop-in-shop concept, so that the farmer gets a corner in the supermarket and can sell his products there. Then the social responsibility and the development or developing country issue, well, I think there's a huge injustice, because in principle what we are facing is the fact that those who are contributing most to the global warming are less affected by the global warming than those who contribute only little, especially the least developed countries. They are affected most, but contribute almost nothing. And to deal with this injustice, I think is an issue for the international community. It has to be respected and involved in the development cooperation policies, and what is the European Union doing here. Compared with the rest of the world, we pay the highest contribution per inhabitant for development cooperation. We pay per head more than double as much as, for example, the US. And in that way we can contribute more. But in my view is the concept can't be that we give the impression we would know better what they should do. This is a kind of neo-colonialism, and this has to be avoided. Only if we are prepared to ask the countries what their needs are, and if we then offer support in a way so that we deal properly with these needs, only then there's a chance. The risk is that in the development cooperation policy, a lot of money is wasted. This is a matter of fact. So therefore, we must also improve the controls and enforce the controls. We are going to help the developing countries in a new way, so that we involve much more the industry, that the industry is prepared to do foreign investments, for example, in Africa. This is, I think, a very good way forward. About the taxation and about, for example, also duties, import duties, and so on. So here I think the European Union is so far the only institution in the world which introduced on a unilateral basis that all products produced in any least developed countries can be exported to the European Union without any duty and without any quantitative limitation. This is the so-called everything but arms concept, which was introduced already 15 years ago.
We have no time for the third round. I don't know if they're going to turn off their electricity if we go over time. But anyway, what I get from Dr. Fischler's talk today, the one thing that stands out is in facing a challenge like climate change, international cooperation, how important, absolutely important that is. However, we are in the time, exactly the time where international cooperation seems to be getting more and more difficult. What I would like to remind ourselves, us all together, is in Taiwan, we always have the feeling that we are a very small island, but it's actually ranked as the 22nd most important economic entity in the world. So we are among those developed countries which should take up more responsibilities, not only the EU, but the Taiwanese ourselves. Absolutely. I hope Dr. Fischler has brought the message that it is something that we, the Taiwanese, really have to think more about it. And this awareness should somehow get into the education, get into the private sector as much as we can. Dr. Fischler, I want you to have the last words. What message would you like to share with us before you leave the stage?
Well, this is a difference in the culture, because in Europe, always the woman has the last word.
Well, we think we are more women's liberated, so we don't necessarily have to have the last words.
I think the point is, and you mentioned this implicitly, the point is we must cooperate, and we cannot wait for those who are unwilling to do something. I think we should form coalitions of the willing. In that way, we can make much more progress than only to shout at the unwilling. And second message, I think everybody here, we all can really contribute a lot with our consumption behavior, also with awareness raising, also with communication, so that we are going in the right direction. And thank you very much. I enjoyed this afternoon very much, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm learning the whole day, every hour, something new. So Taiwan is really a fascinating country. Thank you.